All right, welcome to the second tutorial where we are going to take some of the tools that we've learned and practice them on a real website. And I thought that we'd start just because we've been going with the example of Coca-Cola, which I played around with a little bit, and it's quite easy to scrape, but it might not be the best website to scrape, and I'll explain why. But first, so let's check it out. And thinking about the ethics of web scraping, I'm not too worried about putting too much strain on the website of a huge organization like Coca-Cola. So I'm not asking for permission here. And there's not so much information to scrape anyways. So we won't be putting too much pressure on their servers. And so if you're tuning in from the future, since when this was recorded, we're recording this right after the Paris Olympics in 2024. And so the content may change, but the ideas are still the same. And that's a very important point, actually, that websites are updated all the time. And sometimes those updates are not going to affect your recipe or your scraper. Sometimes they will. If Coca-Cola completely decides to redesign their website, then your recipe, your scraper is not going to work anymore, and you're going to have to redo it. So that's something to also keep in mind. So let's go over to the media center here. And what this is essentially press releases, news that Coca-Cola wants to publish. And I'm in a media and communication department. These are types of things that I would be interested in from like an organizational theory perspective. What is Coca-Cola putting out to the public? How is that being framed? What is it releasing? And then maybe what is it hiding? Which of course we can't scrape. But this might be some interesting data if I was interested in how does Coca-Cola present and market itself as a company, for example, just to give you an idea of how this might be used for research. And so before you start scraping a website and start building your recipes, it's a good idea to just look around and familiarize yourself with the website. So first, one of the things that I definitely want to check is, does it have pagination? And here I can see that yes, it does go from page 1 to page 2 to page 3. So this would be good for me to build a recipe, and then I could scrape everything across multiple pages. Now, other things I want to look for is a pretty consistent element structure, which I have here, right? There's an image, a title, a description, and a date. Perfect. But what I want you to really pay attention to is the hyperlink structure. So the actual links themselves. These will usually follow a pattern if you pay close attention. So here I see that there's page 1. I'm going to guess that if I click on next page, it's going to be page 2. And so I'm quite sure that if I put in page 3, it will work. If I put in page 1000, it might not work because there's not maybe 1,000 pages. I don't know. Let's see. Well, there is technically, but there's no content on them. So pay attention to the list, the URL structure. Does it follow a sort of pattern that you can understand? Sometimes it doesn't. But usually when there are pages, those pages will be named, and those will become useful for us later when we want to combine list and details page scraping. So it's a good idea to just get a sense of the list page, look at the hyperlinks, see how they change when you change different pages, and does that follow a sort of logical structure? A lot of times it will. Now, the other thing I want to do is look at the details page. Now, as I mentioned before, details pages usually follow a similar pattern. Let me go, I was on page 3. Let me go back to the first page. which I can just do by going to page, no, filled in 1000. Okay, now we're on the most recent. And I'll just open up this details page and I'll see, okay, it's got a title, it's got a date, and it's got a bit more information than we see on the list page, and it also has about the Coca-Cola company. I'm going to guess that this is probably on every details page. Like this is just inserted standard information. We can check out vitamin water. Here again, we see we have an image here. We have a title. We have a much longer description. And then we have our about the Coca-Cola company. So I'm just looking through here. Looks about the same. Doesn't have the Coca-Cola part. Because what I found going through this site is that some of them, for example, this one, has a video. And this can create a problem for us when we build a scraper, because we may try to build a recipe that includes a video, and then we won't get one for every page because they don't have one for every page. But even worse, we may build a scraper for this details page and not include a part of the scraper to capture the video because we don't see one. But we know in other details pages there are videos. So that's why it's a good idea to look at a few details pages and see, are they all the same or are they not? And which details page do you want to build your recipe from? We probably want to build one with a details page that has the video so that we can try to see if we can pick up those videos in other details pages that have them. But I also noticed that, okay, this one has a video. But I think it was this one I was looking at is a problem because it has a picture, but it has multiple pictures. And so, in a sense, it's going to be hard to build one scraper for these details pages that can get all the images, all the videos. There's no real pattern here that Coca-Cola is following. So what we can probably do, I haven't tried to scrape it yet, I'm going to do it in this video with you, is we can definitely get text, because text is in all of the details pages. But we are probably going to miss, we're definitely going to miss, capturing all of the images and all of the video, because these details pages do not follow a standard format. Other websites do. There will be just one image, a chunk of text, and it will be the same across every single details page. Here, we don't have that. So we'll see what we can get, but if we don't look at the details page, here I've opened up, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them to get a sense of the page. And that's really important that before you scrape, you spend some time looking at the different details pages, seeing, do they follow the similar pattern all the time? Or do they differ just a little bit? Do some have videos and some not? Or in this case, we have some with just text, some with a video, and some with multiple pictures. It's going to be very hard to build a single scraper for a details page that can capture all of that. So what I'm going to try to do is stick with the simple page and just pull the text and see if I can get all the text out of the different details pages. And then at least I know, and if I was writing a paper, I would definitely say, I didn't collect images and videos because they were inconsistent across the different details pages, and a scraper could not uniformly, or all at one single scraper could not pick up all these various different types of pages. They're different. And I would also have to think then, is this really a page that I want to scrape if I can't get a consistent scraper across them? Then you have to think, is this really the best case for me to test my research question? Or could I look at another company, like, I don't know, Pepsi? And is Pepsi have a better, more standard details page when it comes to their press releases? So the point is to spend some time with the site, look at the structure of the hyperlinks. So here we'll see that Coca-Cola reports second quarter 2024 results is the hyperlink, and that also happens to be part of the title. And so I can guess that this one with Fanta is going to have a similar link structure. Fanta invites fans to manifest Halloween thrills. Fanta invites fans to manifest Halloween thrills. So we can start to guess and see, okay, is it the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words that are always the title? Or does it differ? So here we have the 7 words that are the same as the title. Does this one also have 7 words? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No. So there's not a rule there with the hyperlinks. We know that the hyperlinks contain some part of the title of the page, but they differ. So we can't try to think of any standard rule there in terms of being able to just guess what the hyperlink is from the title. And again, that's because each website is coded differently. There could be a rule put in from the IT team at Coca-Cola that we're going to follow this standard link structure, and we're just going to take the first 5 words of each title and make that our link. They don't do that, so we can't be able to guess the URLs. But that's okay, we'll get them another way with web scraping a bit later. So in general, when we're doing data collection from the internet, it's usually a problem with images and videos because they're not easy to put into spreadsheets. They take a lot of memory. Maybe this video is only a couple megabytes, but if you're scraping thousands and thousands of web pages, you need a lot of memory to hold all of these videos. So you're okay with just text. But let's see how much of the text we can get across the details pages. I have played around with the scraping the list, and it's super, super easy. So I thought that we would just recap how to scrape a very, very simple list, and then we'll look at a more complicated details page. So our first step is to go to the first page of the pagination, just to make sure that we start scraping from the most recent item. So be careful that you're not stuck on page 2 when you start scraping. You'll miss page 1. And let's open up Data Miner. We'll click Make Our Own Recipe. And we'll go to the second tab, which is Type of Page, and this is a list. So our first step is to define the rows. And remember, a row is going to be one element chunk here. So we click on the Easy Row Finder. We highlight our element chunk, and we press 1 for the first row. And then we go down, highlight the second chunk, and press 2. Boom. Data miner picked it up. It found 6 rows. Let's just confirm that there are 6 elements. Yes, there are. Confirm. Now our next step is to make a column for each individual piece of information that we want. And what I want to get here is 5 things. I want to get the image, link to the image. I want to get this title, this description, this date. That's 4 things. What is the 5th thing I want? I want to get the URL that shows up here. So we just saw that there's no real pattern. They're taking words from the title to construct the URL. But remember, we talked about hyperlinks as attributes before. There is a hyperlink in the code in the back-end code of this website. How do I know that? Because when I click that title, this pops up. That has to be programmed into this element. So I know that there is the hyperlink in there, and I'm going to extract it. And we'll talk about more about this in the next tutorial, but I want to get all of those hyperlinks into a column, because then I can tell data miner to scrape from all of those URLs. So that's what's called a crawl scrape in the data miner program. And what that means is that I'll have a list of URLs for all 6 of these elements, and then for every element on these various pages, so that when I build a details page scraper, I can say, okay, apply this details page scraper to every URL that I've collected automatically. So we'll cover that process in the next video, but I'll show you how to get that link now. So I want the image URL just to the file so that I have it. But what I'm really interested in is the title, the description, the date, and the link. These are things that I could actually use for analysis later. The images, not so interesting. As we see, it's Coca-Cola press release. Could be interesting depending on your research question, but it's there. Let's go ahead and collect it. So the first thing we want to do is, you can always change this later in your spreadsheet, but it's usually a good idea to have your first column be something that makes it very easy to identify what the element is. So, I think that would be title, because then I could look, and when I'm reading the spreadsheet from left to right, I would say, okay, I kind of know what each of these rows is. If it's the date, these could be both published on the same day on 8/14. They're not, but if they were, that wouldn't be a very unique piece of information for me to get a understanding when I look at the spreadsheet. So it's generally a good idea to make your first column one that is quite unique to that element, so that you can just kind of, when you're looking at the spreadsheet, you can see, get an idea of what each row is from the first column. Again, once you have the spreadsheet, you can always change the order of the columns, but it's a small point, but one to consider. So I will call this title. And the next step is to see, will the easy column finder pick up the title? It's probably text, so I'm going to leave that unchanged. And then I'm going to hover over the title and press C for column. And data miner found it. Click confirm. And I see that I have 6 pieces of information. Coca-Cola company announces, Coca-Cola company announces, vitamin water introduces, vitamin water introduces, checks out. Next, I would like the description, which I'm just going to call this little chunk here. Easy column finder, highlight, press C. Great, you found your item. And I have my 6 rows of data. Always check that box. Make sure, because it may look like you have it up here, but you might not down in the website. So you can both look at this little output, but you can also make sure that you're having that purple box on all 6 of our elements. Next, I will add date. Easy column finder, date, got it, got it. Easy, easy, easy. Now, let's go for the image. So what's going to happen when I press C? It's probably not going to work because I have text. This is probably not a text item. It says it's found, but look, we don't see a purple box around this image, and there's nothing in this box. And if we confirm, we have 0 data. Because if we go to the code, with developer tools, oh, it's opening up developer tools for data miner. I have to click on Chrome again. So I just want to show you the difference between text and URL, just to explain why text isn't working. So I'm just narrowing down, scrolling down. Sorry, my audio cut out, so I had to restart. So maybe you missed some scrolls here, but I'm basically just keep going down this list to finally arrive at our picture. So here it is. And it's a bit, it's hard to present this well. But there we have our image link. And what you'll notice is that, at least on my color scheme, it's not white. It's a sort of purplish color, which signals that it's a link. If we look for, let's see, just to show you, if you'll see here, we have the text that's actually in the code that's showing up on the website is going to be color-coded a certain way. And part of the reason is that it's in an H3 tag, which is a header 3. That's something that needs to have some text in it, right? You can't have a header without text. Think about Microsoft Word. If you want to make a header a certain font or color, there has to be some text there. So in the code, and also what data miner is looking for when you highlight text, it's looking for text. So if we go back to the picture, and sorry it's messy, but we can see that we have an image tag. So we have to tell data miner that we're not looking for text. That's why it's not picking it up. So that's a very long way to say what we want to do is go to our column finder and look for an image URL, which is essentially telling data miner, look for that img tag when we select what we're looking for. So I'm highlighting this. I'm sorry, it's a little bit small. And then I'm going to press C. And remember, a lot of times when you do look at the backend code and then you try to go to the website, you're going to have to click back on the website. So I just clicked to bring my cursor back to be able to select things. And then I hit C. And now you can see that it's found my item. And we have the URL for each individual image. Again, what might these URLs be good for? In the spreadsheet, you're not actually going to have an image in there. Well, you'll be able to take that URL and put it into Google and bring up the image. Maybe you want to download them into a folder or something. So it might be good to have. Okay, so we've got our 4 pieces of information. Now let's get the link that will bring us to the details page for all 6 of these items. So let me just kind of restart my developer tools just to be able to show you a bit easier. So let's just stick with the code for a second. This huge, huge piece of code. I want to get to the element chunk. I know the list is going to be in that element chunk because when I click it on the website, on the front end, it brings me somewhere. So that has to be in an A tag, which is for hyperlinks, and in particularly, I know that the link itself is going to be in an attribute called href. We saw some examples from the lecture. I don't expect you to remember that, but it's part of HTML. And as a markup language, there are certain rules, and links are going to be in an href attribute inside of an A tag. That's how they work. So there is a logic to it. So let me swing down to get that chunk. Just keep narrowing down. All right, so here we have this li tag is for list. So for each item in the list, I'm sorry I can't make this much wider because it's so nested. See, here's my link. Media Center, the Coca-Cola company announces participation in Barclays. It's in an attribute with the name href inside of an A tag. So I can grab this even though I don't see it. I can't select it on the front end. And so just so there's no, just to restate, if you don't understand what I want to do here, I want to grab this /media center / the Coca-Cola company announces participation, because if I was to click on this, just to show you, if I was to open up this link, I've just basically activated that little chunk of code. And here I have Media Center, the Coca-Cola announces, blah, blah. So I have that link right there. I'm only going to get, this part is only in the code, but I know I have to just add that to coca-colacompany.com, and that will bring me to the details page. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a column where I have a list of all the links for these 6 items so that I know what this link is going to be for all 6 items. And I'm done with these for now. So let's grab that link. And my apologies, again, I had to reset because something threw me off that I'm going to explain to you now because it's actually very important. And again, an example of web scraping being a frustrating process. So my apologies. Now, what just happened was, as I was looking for the link, and I'll show you how to do that in a second, but I've just been saying how that link is in this this A tag. Look at the difference between the box on the front end over here. Look at the difference between this box with the A tag and this box with the LI tag. You see how there's a different size. So what I was just doing before I had to restart was trying to select the link from this box. So I just selected this box because it looked like that captured the element. But by looking at the back-end code, I can see that it's actually a more specific box that I need to select for DataMiner to find this link. So let me show you how that looks. So when I'm creating another column here called details link. And I'm going to have to go to advanced settings for this one. I'm going to need to use the advanced finder. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for an attribute. How do I know? Because I know my link is in an attribute href. So text won't work. So when I go to the advanced finder, let me click back onto the page. Now what I was just doing is I was trying to select this, but I know that here is where the A tag is. This is the LI tag. So if I click Shift, it gives me tags and CSS classes for this. See? Search list item, search list item. But I need to get one step deeper, which is this little box, the A tag. So let me cancel, go to Advanced Finder, and be sure that I am only getting the A tag. And here we'll see I can select that A tag, which is corresponding to this here. And that's where I know my link is. So the lesson is, if you're using the Advanced Finder to try to get a link or any other attribute, and you're hitting Shift to try to select the box to get the link, you may need to select a smaller box. And the only way you're going to find that smaller box is by using the CSS selector here in Developer Tools to say, oh, my link is in this box, and what I just selected was a bigger box, so no wonder I can't get it. So when I do select this smaller box, we'll see that I can get the A tag, and I know my link is in the A tag. Let me hit confirm. I know my attribute name is href. that has my link in it. I have to spell it correctly. And now I have my links. So that's definitely a bit more of a tougher thing to do, right? The title, the description, the date, point and click, boom, no problem. And that's why from the beginning of the course, I want you to know a little bit about HTML so that you can try to troubleshoot why can I not get what I want. And I understand that many of you are going to be confused. At this point, that is totally fine because you're only going to work out these bugs when you go on your own and sit and be frustrated for a couple hours, maybe even a couple days, and then you'll realize, oh, I wasn't selecting the right box. There was a smaller box. This happens constantly with web scraping, even with professionals and pros. But I warned you, it can be frustrating. And I'm going to warn you again, when you go out and do this in the real world, you're going to be frustrated. My advice is to walk through the code with developer tools. Even if you're not understanding what every tag is, you have this visual indicator of the boxes to say, okay, I know I want that link. It's in an A tag. Why, when I select this box, do I not get the A tag? Ah, there's a smaller box. I need to tell data miner to get that, basically what's in purple, and not what's in red. So now we have everything we wanted. So we can go to, oh, one last thing, very important. Pagination. And we could always add, we could save this recipe and come back later and add the navigation. But let's do that. I'll try to zoom in so it's not, whoa, not so small. There's a next button here. That's what will take us to the next page. Let's tell data miner where that is. So we go to the Easy Nav Finder. This time we need to press N to select it. Should be pretty easy to pick up. Confirm. And now we can save our recipe. So let's call this Coca-Cola list recipe. And now we have it saved in data miner. And what we can do is we can go, we could either, my next step is to scrape it. I can scrape it directly from here, but let me just show you a different way. So we could do this and open it up, or we would just, let's get rid of DevTools. We don't need them anymore. We go to Coca-Cola-company.com. And then once we're at Coca-Cola-company.com, we need to go to the Media Center before we open up our scraper. So I just want to show you very briefly, if we try to open up data miner here, it will not let us scrape this web page because we actually don't have a scraper for Coca-Cola-company.com. We have a scraper for the Media Center. So we have to go directly to that part that we've built, that web page that we built a recipe for. And now, if I open up data miner, you'll see that it works. So that's just something that you may build a recipe and then you'll go to a web page and try to scrape it, but you're not actually on the web page that you built the recipe for. You may be on Coca-Cola.com and not Coca-Cola.com Coca-Cola.com/media center. So just be careful about that. It's just something I wanted to show you. You have to be back on that page we built the scraper for. So we will go to Coca-Cola list recipe, the one we built. And then we'll bring up the scraper. Again, you could do it directly from the recipe, but if you save a recipe and go back to a website, just be careful that you're on that part of the website you built the recipe for. So what we have is we can kind of see how the data is going to look, right? Title, description, date, image URL. And because we've added the next button for pagination, we can do pagination. So that will, again, just to recap, that will scrape this page, go to page 2, scrape it, go to page 3, scrape it. So let's scrape 5 pages, and we'll put a 2-second delay and let it rip. And again, we can kind of see in real time, just reset to 6 seconds. So every 6 seconds, it will load a new page and then add all of that data using our recipe to the spreadsheet file. So here we go. Now we're on page 4. We can see that down here. I know it's a bit small, but at this point it doesn't matter. The scraper is doing its thing. So let's just let it roll, and we can already see now we're in, what is that, 3 months ago. So we're kind of moving back through Coca-Cola's press releases and news and investor reports, ... So it looks like we're done. Download. And now we have a bunch of information about what Coca-Cola has been posting. But what's important is that we also have those URLs. So let me show you how this works. Here we have our, I'll just bold these, zoom in a little bit. All right, we've got our title. Oops, some of them are quite long. We've got the descriptions that are going to be even longer, the date. Now, let's look at the image URL real quick. Here we see them. You'll see them in this part of Excel here. But let's check out. This is why it's kind of cool to save the images. And there we have, it's very small. What was that, Jay-Z? But that's how we would bring up the images. And then we also have the details links. And so these are just the end part after Coca/ColaCompany.com. So if we try to use the details link by itself, it's not going to work, because it's missing the Coca-Cola part, right? So we need Coca-ColaCompany.com. We need to put that on the front. And that brings us directly to Coca-ColaCompany.com. So this was a tutorial aimed at showing you how easy it is to get what you see on the front end. For us, that was the title, description, date, and picture. But there's also information, I think the most important for you to learn about is links. Because again, anything you can click on the front end, there's a link in the code on the back end. And with a little bit of using the advanced selector and finding the specific box that corresponds to the tag that has the link, we can grab it. And in the next tutorial, we'll build a recipe for just the details page, and then I'll show you how you can link the URLs from the list page to scrape the details pages. So rather than manually scraping each page, we could do an automated scrape of every details page using the lists we've collected, the links we've collected, the ones that are right here. So we'll build a scraper that will pull as much information as we can across the different details pages. That's probably going to be just text. And then what we can do is we can set up DataMiner to do what's called a crawl, where it will apply the recipe for the details page on every one of these links. And again, that is a paid option, so you need to upgrade your plan, but I'll show you how to do it because that's really how you start to gather lots and lots of data automatically. What we've learned so far is we could do that for list pages. Very easy, we could get everything on a list and just keep paginating and get tons and tons of data. But if we want to build another file with all of the information from the details page, then we will need to do that, that crawl scrape, unless we apply our details page scraper with the, just want to make sure I have the terminology right, the scrape and append. And I'll do that also in the next tutorial, but we did it before where we have a recipe for the details page and then we have to basically visit it, hit scrape and append, and then we could go to another details page, hit scrape and append. So there is a manual way to do it. You can get a lot of data that way with the free plan of 500 pages. But just to show you how to set up a crawl page, or sorry, a crawl scrape, you'll see it right here. All we're going to do is we're going to load in the URLs to DataMiner, tell it what details scraper we want to apply, and it will apply it automatically to every URL in the list. So I'll see you in the next tutorial for the Coca-Cola details page.